It's nothing magical about the actual substance or the ingredient list. It's just a tool to help make hitting protein goals easier. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. I'm Courtney, and this is my brother, Paris. And Paris, I have a question for you today.
Yes.
Did you have any protein powder yet today?
I did have probably in total about 75 grams of whey protein.
Which is about how many grams of protein?
That's a great question. I'm going to say my guess is going to be like 65.
I was going to say maybe 55, so I think it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it's isolate, so it's
isolate,
pretty,
yeah, so you're probably spot on. I'm testing your knowledge. Well, if you had protein powder this morning, you're not alone. Not just because I also had protein powder this morning, but because the majority of people now are actually taking protein powder. There was a U of T study that was done recently, I think last year. They looked specifically at youth and younger people. So it was Canadians aged 16 to 30 in the study. Over half of them reported using protein shakes and protein powders. So it's a lot of people, right? And in 2021, previous research, 52% of girls and young women were using it, but 83% of boys and young men.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So it's really interesting. Like the adoption of protein powder supplements has actually really gone up. There is a reason why we still see higher adoption with men than women. And it was interesting. There's this term that came up when I was looking into this that I was like, wow, it sounds complicated, but it actually summarizes the reasoning so well. It's muscular, sociocultural, male body ideal.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
That is quite a mouthful. It's a bigger mouthful than a scoop of protein powder, if I may say so. It's just this idea of, young men are kind of those who want to build muscle because of societal standards around physique. So you see this relationship between using protein powder and protein powder adoption and kind of this idea of having that more muscular physique.
Mm-hmm. That's too funny. Wow. I've never heard that term and I probably won't remember it.
No, that's why I wrote it down and I had to read it out.
I can see. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, well, that definitely sums it up. So even though it's complicated, it's probably shorter than me.
It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. So essentially here today, what we're going to do is answer the question, do you need protein powder to build muscle? That majority of young men who are taking protein powder with muscle building goals, and let's be honest, I'm a not quite as young anymore woman, also trying to build muscle, and I also take protein powder. So it's not just for that demographic. But we do see higher adoption with that group for sure. We're going to talk a little bit about, do you actually need it to build muscle? And definitely want to acknowledge that protein powder usage is on the rise and more women are using it as well. It's not just young people using it with muscle building goals. The protein powder market in Canada is estimated to grow about 5% annually between 2025 and 2030. And that includes revenues going up, volumes going up, and also volume per capita going up. So we're not here to argue the amount of protein powder people are using.
Yeah.
But we definitely see that it's on the up. So we want to talk about this to help us understand if it's on the up because it's needed or if because it's nice to have.
Yeah, let's do this. This is an important topic and something that people ask about a lot.
Yes.
I would say.
Yes, definitely. So when we now think about, do you need protein powder to build muscle? Let's actually start with protein and muscle. Okay. And why does protein actually matter to build muscle?
Yeah, I think we'll just keep it very basic. We've talked about this in some other episodes, but protein is just foundational for building muscle because it kickstarts kind of that reparation and growth process. Mm-hmm. So it stimulates muscle protein synthesis and just gives us the building blocks to create or repair tissue. Or in this conversation, we're talking about muscle tissue. Yeah.
Yes. In this conversation, we're talking about muscle tissue. In our conversation on the role of each macro, we did talk about that. So I'll link that podcast below as well. We did talk about the roles that protein plays, but building block is kind of the terminology we keep coming back to. So if you're trying to build muscle, the building blocks have to do with protein. Anything else on why protein matters for building muscle? Just to set the record straight before we dive into the powder element specifically.
No, I think people have a good understanding of I need the proteins. So
Yep, fair enough. It's that straightforward. Let's now tie this into protein powder. Protein is the building block for muscle. Protein powder supplies us with protein. Is there anything specific about the protein we get from protein powder that makes it unique or different? Why do we create this association with protein powder specifically in building muscle?
I think, it goes back to just marketing. For some reason, people think like, okay, protein powder means muscle. Protein powder is just derived from milk, pretty much, essentially. And it is just a very high quality choice for protein. And it's in a powdered form in a variety of types of protein powder. And that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, you said it's derived from milk, and that would be specifically if we're talking about like whey protein or
Yes, sorry.
casein. Of
Yes,
course
whey and casein. Yeah.
there are like plant-based protein powders as well. But at the end of the day, it's distilled protein, essentially. You start with some sort of whole food, whether that's peas or dairy, and you extract the protein content from it. You put it in a powdered format. I'm not familiar with like the industrialization and manufacturing
Me
process,
either.
but that's essentially what it is, right? We're taking the protein from these whole food sources, making it into a powdered form that's easy to package as a supplement.
Yes.
So let's start with that. Like, if we're talking about you need protein to build muscle, protein powder is just one way in which you can consume protein.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I think it's interesting for us to just acknowledge that there's nothing magical about protein in a powdered format. It is just another protein source.
I think that's really important. We should say that again. Yeah, there's not a magical inherent muscle building effect to whey protein or any other protein supplement. It's just a great source of quality protein. That's it.
If we answer our question, do you need to take protein powder to build muscle? How would you answer that?
I would say no, you do not need it. There's many reasons that we're going to get into of why you can and maybe should use it, but you can definitely build just as much muscle in theory, eating or consuming or drinking whatever, zero protein powder of any sort.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're gonna start to explore essentially what those options are for you. If you do choose to take protein powder, why it can help you and why you might not need to. But let's just start with what we've covered so far. We've knocked out protein is essential for building muscle. So do you need protein to build muscle? Yes. Do you need protein powder? Not necessarily, because protein powder is just another form of protein.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taking protein powder, though, does make it easier to build muscle. I would like to put that on the table.
I'm going to pick it up from the table, yeah.
Okay, amazing. So let's talk about why. And I'm going to start with this first and foremost is like, we do need to make sure to build muscle, we are getting enough protein. Non-negotiable. Most people do not consume enough protein in their diets from other food sources. We talked about this when we did the episode on how can you eat more protein, right? So we'll link that one as well. The RDA, or the recommended dietary allowance, so the minimum protein intake that's recommended by like government and stuff, is like just to keep you kind of alive. You don't have extra protein in that recommendation to use towards building muscle.
Exactly. It's so low to the point where it's not great for body composition or building muscle or whatever. Like that's not what it's recommending. People say, oh, well, the RDA is only this. It's like, yeah, there's a difference between what, again, keeps you alive, as Courtney said, and what can be okay for health versus like what's going to optimize your fitness goals.
Right. So we know we need to eat more protein than the average person is eating. Like if we're talking about fitness and physique, muscle maintenance, let alone building. So when you are building, protein sufficiency becomes super important. But most people do not eat enough protein. So where protein powder becomes super handy is it helps you close the gaps in your total daily protein intake.
Absolutely.
I want to kind of start off with just like the practical realities of trying to eat enough protein. And then we can dive into like the benefits of protein powder specifically. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of gaps, I think, that are hard for people to close when it comes to eating enough protein. And one of them is like, some people naturally don't include large portion sizes. So I don't know, sometimes I'm like, I can only eat so much chicken breast in one sitting. And some people also don't always gravitate towards high density protein sources. Mm-hmm. And further to that, sometimes some people don't have foods that they routinely choose in certain meals. And I'm thinking about breakfast, right? Mm-hmm. So when we think about those gaps, either you're not eating enough or enough portions of different protein sources, you're not choosing foods that are dense enough in protein, or you're not necessarily having protein as many times during the day to get enough total daily protein intake. This is where our protein powder becomes helpful to help you eat enough protein to build muscle.
Yeah, there's also that factor of like the portability of protein source. A lot of times, like if you're on the run for in the morning or whatever, those more higher density, apart from protein powder, the higher density food choices might be meats or fish. And it's like, you might be not wanting to have that right away as you're driving to work on.
Absolutely. I think the breakfast one I want to double down on, because you just pinpointed it as like the portability and the kind of like rushed morning that most of us in North
Yeah.
America are accustomed to makes protein powder a great fit to make sure you're getting protein in to start your day. Like when I was in Japan, the traditional Japanese breakfast, not so much the modern one where it's like a 7-Eleven stop in, but the traditional Japanese breakfast is fish at breakfast. And that is
Wow.
not something we have typically in the North
Definitely
American
not.
diet, right? And for us, it's like, okay, if we think about those go-to breakfast options, even eggs sometimes doesn't quite get as much protein as we would like. Or if
Mhm.
you're on the go and your portable option is grabbing a croissant or a bagel, you're not getting protein in, right?
Yes.
And even the North American diet where we're like, oh, but it's sausages and bacon and stuff like that. It's like, it's not really quite that much protein as it is like a high fat breakfast.
Yeah, the ratios of fat to protein on those kind of suck. Even with eggs, it's like pretty much 1 to 1 almost. So
Right.
it's like if you're trying to, let's say you're a person who's trying to get, I don't know, let's just say 150 grams of protein, and you're like, well, I had 3 eggs for breakfast. Great, you had 15 grams of protein. That's a
Mm-hmm.
tenth of
Right.
your daily target.
Daily needs. Yeah, exactly. So when we think about the value of like protein powder, even just for solving that breakfast gap, it's like, okay, it's portable, or you can toss it into a smoothie or do what you and I both do, which is put in our oats in the morning and we're good to go. And then it becomes a no brainer. So breakfast is otherwise a huge challenge for people to get in enough protein. We see it time and time again with people we work with. Like that tends to be where they don't get protein in.
Hmm.
So when you're looking at total daily protein intake, protein powder becomes super convenient to helping you get enough protein in at breakfast, which then helps you get enough protein in for the whole day.
For sure. Absolutely. Like if you're somebody who's falling low in your protein target, if you started your day with 2 scoops of protein, you will find it so much easier. There's what, like potentially 50 plus grams of protein
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The other practical application that I want to talk about in terms of where it can help is actually with people who are on like vegetarian or vegan diets. It becomes really hard for them to eat enough of vegetarian protein sources over the course of the day
Yes.
to get in enough protein. And
Yeah.
especially because a lot of those food choices, so when we talk like chickpeas, even if we throw eggs back into the mix, right? Or even tofu, they're not just protein. It's not like chicken, which is like 5% plus, like lean protein. You're getting other calories and stuff as well from those sources. So on a vegetarian diet, using protein powders just becomes a surefire way to get kind of like straight up protein when you can't get it quite as easily. Not saying it's not possible, it's just a lot harder to do in a fully vegetarian diet or vegan.
Yeah. Especially if you're like, let's say you're a vegetarian woman, right? And you're in a fat loss phase and you're a smaller person, or you're deeper into a fat loss phase and your calories are pretty low. The chance that you can make the ratios work of protein to calories that you would need to hit your targets
Mm-hmm.
with purely vegetarian food choices without protein powder, or like, 0% Greek yogurt, like those kind
Yeah,
of food choices, it's pretty tough.
very. Yeah.
So it can really help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So for vegetarians, having protein powder becomes really helpful when
Yeah.
building muscle or maintaining muscle for that matter. Okay, a couple of other quick reasons why protein powder makes building muscle easier. We talked about how it's super portable. We talked about how it can help close gaps at breakfast, which is typically where people struggle to get enough protein. We talked about for vegetarian and vegans. There's a couple of things I want to throw out there. The first one is cost efficiency.
Hmm.
Groceries are freaking expensive right now.
Yeah.
And yes, buying a big tub of protein can cost you $100, like easy. Every
Yeah.
time I order protein, I'm like, there goes my
I
credit
just I
card.
just did that literally like 1 hour ago.
Right, there you go. So you know, but when you actually do the cost per serving of protein
Yes,
powder,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
sorry, I stole the words out of your mouth.
No,
Go for
no,
it.
it's good. No, no, you go. You go.
You
You
sure?
brought it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you actually do the cost per serving of protein powder, it's very good. It can be
Hmm.
like what, $1.50, $2 or something like that. For 25 to 30 grams of protein. When you take the equivalencies of that and you compare it to chicken or beef or
Hmm.
fish, salmon's also expensive, stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it actually shows you how cost efficient protein
Yeah.
powder can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people are like, oh my gosh, it's I got to spend this much on protein, but it's like, yeah, when you break it up per serving, it does make a lot more sense. And I think that nowadays, as you said, groceries have become so expensive that if you try to eat the same amount of protein with those like fish or meat sources within a month compared to just protein powder, like you'll notice a pretty significant difference in your bill.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So even if I think about just like covering one serving of protein a day or two servings of protein a
Yeah.
day from protein powder, it just makes the grocery bill a lot more affordable. And I'm saying this for me, where like my protein targets are like 130 grams a day. For people like you or like my partner, right? It's like you're looking at 180 grams of protein, and sometimes 200. That's a lot of protein to get in a day.
Yeah, I usually fall somewhere around 210.
210, there you
right
go.
Now. Yeah.
In those cases, saving a little bit of cash can be helpful, and it makes building muscle a lot easier when you can do it affordably.
Yeah. I think the other one I'm going to say that will sneak in here is the convenience factor. Like the first part of my day is when I do the most amount of work, and two of my meals are protein powder based. I'll say my protein oats and then like a smoothie after, because I don't want to waste so much time cooking. Yeah, I could meal prep like beforehand and then eat those meals, but on the fly, that's a common thing. Oh, I don't have time. I'm busy with work. It's like, okay, same here, guys. It's like, you know how long it takes me to make a smoothie? 30 seconds. You know how long it takes me to make protein oats? Okay, maybe a minute and 45 seconds. All right. We can't use that excuse if we have the convenience factor of protein powder at our disposal. Like it's great. 2025, it tastes so good, which can be the next point that we'll talk about. Back in the day in the 80s, from what I've heard, it tasted like absolute garbage. So we are so lucky. We can have protein flavor of like chocolate and like beautiful flavors like this. We live in a great world. Let's use it.
Okay, before we go on and on about taste, because I do want to come back to that. I do want to just kind of give a client shout out to one client in particular who she always works a very high stress demanding job, and she's in back-to-back meetings all day long. And there were days where she was like, I'm not eating anything till 2 p.m. And the challenge was like, how are we going to get all of our protein in from 2 p.m. onwards? And so what we started doing was, hey, let's have a shake sitting next to you when you're still on your meetings and your Zoom calls. It's there, but you're getting your protein in, right? So for her, that became a game changer and super, super convenient.
Definitely. I used to do the same thing when I was on the road in sales. I used to actually, in my coffee on my drive to my first meeting, I used to do a double scoop of protein in my coffee. So it was like 50 grams of protein on the way there, because I was driving, so I didn't want to be eating, right?
For sure, for sure. And actually, I know we're going to come back to your taste one, but I do want to throw out one more way before we get there around one more way.
I'm not going to make any protein.
Let's just isolate that joke there.
Oh my God. You're making it difficult for me to concentrate on this conversation.
Whey protein concentrate. I haven't heard that one quite as recently.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
a good one. Oh man. Okay. Whew. Back to focus. Now, what was the one I was going to bring up? The benefit? Let me think about that again.
We're talking about taste or?
Oh, okay. I remember now. Before we get to taste, one thing I do want to talk about is actually how easy it can be depending on your appetite level. For me, I am not naturally hungry in the morning, right? And I know I have my protein oats. I usually eat them later, kind of late morning. But if I'm like on the go or, not waiting around at home to eat breakfast, then when I don't have a big appetite, at least sipping on a shake is like something. Especially for people who are building muscle, sometimes you don't always have a huge appetite and you don't want to sit there and chow down some chicken breast. I keep coming back to that. But this just makes it easy to get protein in without feeling overly full. And most people tend to digest like whey isolates very easily.
Yeah. For example, you could mix it with the tiniest bit of water and make that like whey paste that people have glorified online nowadays. They call it whey drip or whatever. 3 bites could protein be like drip. 25. Yeah, protein drip or whatever. 3 bites could be 25 grams of protein. So it's a very easy way. But you can also make it more if you're a hungrier person or you're in a fat loss phase. You can make it more filling by, for example, choosing casein, which is slower digesting, more filling, or you can make the protein into a smoothie and make it more filling. So you can make it both.
It actually, you're right. You're so right. I'm glad you brought that up because it hits both sides of the equation. If you need something where when you're not that hungry, you can prepare it in a way that's easy. But if you need something when you are hungry, like you said, casein, oh my God. Has anybody ever tried to shake casein and you leave it on the counter for 30 seconds and then all of a sudden it's like cement?
Yeah, it's thick.
It's so thick.
Coach, can I tell you, sorry? Yeah. Coach Steve and I, we were like deep into competition prep in 2022, and it was like a few weeks down, we were going to hit a workout, and I made him like what I call strawberry ice cream, which is like vanilla casein and like strawberries and almond milk. And he's like, man, he's like, dude, this is the thickest thing ever. But when you're in competition prep, like you still digest it like instantaneously, and also it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah. It's like, those old commercials or like not even commercials. They do it when you go into the store in Dairy Queen when they turn the Blizzard upside down to show you how thick it is. That's what casein is like, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Perfect. So all that to be said, protein powder can make it easier to manage your appetite if you're in a building phase and you're not hungry, or if you're in a fat loss phase and you want to maintain muscle and you are hungry. You can find a protein powder solution for either one.
Yeah.
The last big way in which protein powder helps make it easier to build muscle, like you said, is taste. And you talked on about this, but I want to call it out again specifically as like a core benefit.
We have endless flavors
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, and they taste fantastic. And as I said before, we weren't so blessed with this, but nowadays we are. So whatever flavor you like, you can have, and you can make it in so many different ways: smoothies, protein oats, cream of rice, cream of wheat. In the weight trip, as we talked about, you can make like protein brownies now in the oven. Like there's a bajillion ways. You can mix it with your Greek yogurt, make it into protein pudding, and it all tastes fantastic. So it's like, why would you not? We just covered all these things. We have a very high quality source of protein. It's super convenient. It's cost effective on a per serving basis. It tastes fantastic. It's very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Great protein to calorie
cost
ratios.
efficiency already.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of checks for a great protein source. That's why we're advocating for it.
Yeah. So do you need protein powder? No. Does it make it easier? Yes, most likely. If you're trying to build muscle, there are a lot of benefits to including protein powder to help you reach the total daily protein requirement you need to make that muscle building process as smooth and easy as possible.
Yes. Okay. Especially, we'll say the higher your protein target is, the more likely you are to benefit from a supplement like this. Like, for example, if you're even, I mean, mine is like 210. Let's say we have some clients who are even bigger, body weight wise, and muscular wise. Like, for example, Benene, like his protein target might be like 235, or in his off season might be like 250. Right. You know, that's a lot of meat and stuff.
He's eating almost double the amount of protein I eat in a day.
I can't remember. I think right now it's like 220, 235 or something. But yeah, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hit. Yeah.
So we said how it helps, but we also said it's not necessary. So can we actually talk about when you really actually don't need protein powder, and when it's okay to be like, you know what, I'm fine. I'm building muscle. I'm confident in my process. I'm getting my protein in, but I don't need protein powder. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, if you're just having an easier time hitting your targets and with like just meat and dairy and other protein sources, like then there's would be actually technically no inherent benefit of swapping it out for protein powder other than the benefits we talked about. But if those are not relevant in your situation, then that's fine. You can just eat whatever else you want for protein.
Exactly. There's a myriad of different protein sources you can choose from. Pick any of them. If you get enough protein in, you're good. You don't need protein powder. Like we said, it's nothing magical about the actual substance or the ingredient list or anything like that. It's just a tool to help make hitting protein goals easier.
Absolutely.
Some people actually don't like the taste or don't like the texture or whatever it is. And there's so many protein powders out there. Most people eventually can find one they do like.
Yeah.
But if you don't enjoy it and you'd rather, I don't know why I keep talking about chicken breast. It's just the most basic protein example.
Just say tilapia. You can use
tilapia. Yes. Okay. If you love tilapia instead, and you're like, you know what, I would rather have tilapia for breakfast instead, or whatever it is.
Imagine.
Like I said, traditional Japanese breakfast, fish for breakfast, right? It's a thing. So if you just prefer other protein sources and you're happily eating them, you don't mind maybe any of the budget considerations or any of that, go for it. Totally go for it. You do not need protein powder.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on like when you don't need protein powder? Or is it that simple?
We've had like maybe 1% of clients, maybe 0.5% of clients that will get digestion issues from protein powders. Yeah. I will say, if that's you, Ghost has a fantastic vegan protein powder. It's a little bit more pricey, but we've tried it. And, you know, I'll say for somebody who does not like most vegan, whatever you want to call them,
plant-based protein powders.
Plant-based protein powders. This one is actually pretty damn good, I will say.
They have like a Cinnabon flavor.
Yeah, the Cinnabon one.
It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, there are definitely some good ones out there, but I'm glad you brought that up because it usually does come down to a digestion thing for people in terms of a reason to avoid protein powders. There's no inherent like health risk or any of that with protein powders. Like we said, it's just essentially distilled protein from our go-to protein sources anyways. But some people are sensitive to either, you know, the digestion quality. A lot of people find that if they have like an isolate instead of a regular whey or a hydrolyzed whey, they tend to digest it more easily. It's essentially just a more refined version of whey protein. But some people also can be sensitive to artificial sweeteners. I'm personally not, luckily. Some people do find if they have it on an empty stomach or something, they'll get a little bit of GI distress.
Yeah, so consider an isolate and mixing it not just with water, like with an actual meal.
Yeah.
And then also, if that still doesn't work, then consider a plant-based option. But you can also get unflavored protein powder now too.
True. Actually, we have a client who's using unflavored protein powder because she's actually
Really?
mixing it into like savory sauces and stuff, and I think it's
Oh,
brilliant. Yeah. So she's doing a great
fantastic.
job of being creative.
That's
Shout
very
out to
interesting.
Malvika for that one. She's doing
Wow.
awesome. So just to know that there are, ways that you can get creative with it.
Ways. Man,
Ways.
sorry.
We need
I've been trying to think of more puns throughout this, but I haven't had any other ones.
This is the way.
Yeah.
So no, you don't need protein powder.
That was a
So
Star Wars reference.
That was a Star Wars reference. Yeah. That was a jacked up Star Wars building muscle reference. What is it? Who is it? Boba Fett? The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's from the Mandalorian.
Right. Mandalorian's pretty jacked.
Yeah, he always wears his armor, so maybe that's inflating his muscles look.
Probably. But who knows what he looks like underneath that?
He's probably pretty jacked. Yeah. Anyways.
For all of this, the athleticism stuff he does,
Yeah.
pretty sure he's got some muscle there.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you don't need protein powder if you're hitting your protein targets or if you're facing some of those issues that we discussed. Don't worry. You can still build muscle. That's the point, right? You can still absolutely build muscle without protein powder. Okay.
Definitely.
Food for thought to wrap things up, to start wrapping things up. Food for thought.
Yeah.
One thing that is important is, like we talked about, protein's not magical. We can treat it like any other protein source. I do want to put it out there that it's probably not advisable to get all of your daily protein from protein powder.
Yeah.
You want to top up?
I was just going to say, like, there's other micronutrients that we get from, we'll say meat and fish and dairy that we like. Like, for example, from dairy, we can get good calcium. And then from meats, red meat, we get great B12 and iron, which we can also get B12 from pretty much any animal products.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And poultry and everything. And then fish like salmon, we get some good omega-3, inputs there. So it's like, if we're avoiding all those, we might be missing some stuff that might be beneficial. And then, as we said before, some people do just inherently find meats way more filling than whey. If I blend in a smoothie, I actually don't find that. But for some people, they still rather, like when they're dieting, they rather eat the protein, like chew on it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just important to remember that, like, just as we always advocate for having a varied diet, period, to cover all nutritional bases, same thing goes with your protein sources, right? They all offer more than just protein. So protein powder has all the benefits we talked about. It doesn't usually come with a lot of those other micronutrients. So please consider it part of your repertoire, but not your only protein source.
Absolutely. I was just thinking in my head, I've been having whey protein for over 12 years.
Oh my God. Like daily
pretty
plus.
much on the daily.
Yeah.
But anybody that says, oh, this is bad or this or kidneys and whatever, it's like, I think I would have seen something.
Yeah, but also the research, anecdotally, you have not seen something, but also the research does not support any claims on damage.
Yeah. If that's it, maybe that's the last myth we should bust before this. We talked about, like, high protein diets don't hurt your kidneys, but some people say for some reason whey proteins might, but that's like illogical because it's just like any other protein source. So yeah, let's remove the myth of anything like that.
Yeah. No inherent damage of protein powders or any protein on kidneys. Some people who have pre-existing conditions of kidney disease might have some sensitivities, but that is for higher protein intakes. Yes. But that is to be discussed with your medical professional and based on your own personal medical history of kidney ailments.
And for 99.9% of people, not applicable.
Not applicable. So, okay. Shall we wrap things up?
Let's do it.
Okay. So here's my conclusion. I wrote it down to keep it super streamlined because you know how I like to talk. Do you need protein powder to build muscle? No. But do you need protein? Yes. Does protein powder make it easier to eat the protein you need for muscle building goals? Yes, it can.
Yes.
That was my tidy summary.
Perfect.
Do you have your own tidy summary you want to share?
No.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Again, my first 2 meals are protein powder based and have been for several years based on all the factors that we said, and love protein powder. Just ordered some and I will keep ordering some. Probably I couldn't see myself stopping using protein powder. So
unless for some reason in the future we get these like protein pills, it's like the next evolution.
But then it would rob me of the satisfaction of eating the
true. And the taste factor that you love so much.
And the taste factor. So yeah. That's it.
Amazing. All right, everybody. We hope that this episode left you a better understanding of the relationship between protein powder and building muscle. If you have a favorite way, I had to throw it in one more time, favorite way, WAY or WHEY, that you enjoy protein powder, Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Or if you're somebody who has actually found, hey, it's super easy for me to hit my protein targets without protein powder, love to hear how you're doing that too. Either way, tell us about how you're meeting your protein goals so you can keep building muscle. Without further ado, we will be back in your feeds with another episode of Truth Talks next Monday. Until then, bye for now and have a great week.
Take care.